Hello, my name is Harley DiNardo, and today is 9/11, and I just wanted to turn on the camera and tell my story. I was fortunate enough to be on a music scene that was exploding with cool indie bands like The Strokes, Interpol, Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and my band, White Light Motorcade. And then in that same year, have such a tragic, incredible loss with the World Trade Center when the terrorists attacked, and I lost my sister. I want to tell you the story how I had dinner with my sister and my mom the night before 9/11 at the top of Tower 1. The year was 2001. We just come out of the 90s, late 90s, with bands like Radiohead and Blur and Pulp, and we were signed. I was in a band called Closer. We were signed to Warner Brothers Revolution, which was run by Irving Azoff and Missy Worth, both very well-known executives in the music industry. We were fortunate enough to make our record where Fleetwood Mac Rumors was recorded in Sausalito with Ed Buller, who produced Suede and Pulp, amongst other bands. But we came out of that because we got dropped, and my guitar player and I moved to New York City from Westchester, where we grew up. And we're like, we're really going to do this now. And we were still young. We got dropped. And not that that matters, but we were young enough to live down there and just live the life. So we were on the scene on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. We had no idea how it was gonna explode with all these cool bands. We were on the precipice of this incredible period, kind of like when the Ramones and Blondie and the Talking Heads were at CBGB's. This was like the Strokes, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Interpol, amongst a few other cool bands. But the places to play were Don Hill's, Mercury Lounge, Arlene's Grocery, and Luna Lounge. And on any given night, you can go out on a Tuesday or Thursday. There was different nights for different things, and you'd run into the Strokes, or you'd run into Interpol, or they'd be playing, or it was an incredible time. At the time, they weren't big yet, so we didn't know. We were all local bands at the time. But what happened was things started to change, and it became a very cool place to be. And I remember one night we were practicing at the Music Building in Midtown, where a lot of artists, including Madonna, who on VH1 went there to visit her old room where she slept and rehearsed. And one night we're getting on the freight elevator, me and my guitar player, we're going to play a gig at Don Hill's, and we're loading our gear onto it. And Derek says to me, "Have you heard this band, The Strokes?" And I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Well, they have their flyers all over the Music Building, and I walked by their room. They sound incredible. They have this like vintage sound, and they look very 70s and cool, kind of like thrift store, like, cool look at the time. That was very unique." And I said, "No, I haven't heard of them." As we're saying this, they walk onto the elevator, and Derek said, "I was just telling Harley that I saw you guys walking around, and I heard you from outside your, rehearsal room, and you're amazing." And they said, "Oh, thank you. Weren't you guys playing at Don Hill's tonight?" And we said, "Yeah." And they came down to see us at Don Hill's, and they all sat in the front. After we got off stage, Julian and I had a drink at the bar, and he asked me how to get a gig at Mercury Lounge and that we should play together. And I told him to call Ryan Gentles, that was the booker there, who's now their manager till this day. And he said he would, and we parted ways that night. A couple of weeks later, we got a call from Ryan that they want to play with us and kind of do a gig together because our crowds would sit well together. And I called the band, and my band couldn't do it because they had things going on with family and stuff. And we didn't know. It wasn't the Strokes we know today. They were just a local band. So I said I'd love to, but we can't because all the guys can't make that date. Sometime later, after the Strokes blew up, I ran into Julian and Fabrizio at a bar called 2A on the Lower East Side, and they were kind of snobby to me because they said that we blew them off when we were all starting. And I said, we didn't blow anybody off, basically. Like, I would have loved to do that gig. So if you're ever watching this Strokes, just know that I would have loved to play with you guys. But we had to keep up with everybody else. Everybody was starting to get record deals, and these places were getting packed. And so Derek went to go play with Stabbing Westward because someone plucked him because he's a great guitar player, and we didn't have much going on. So I lost my guitar player, but I had to make some adjustments and find some new people to play, and I put a new band together. And next thing you know, we were called The Blow Up at the time because it was a cool name, but it was taken in the long run. We became White Light Motorcade. At the time, we were called the Blow Up. And I was working waiting tables down on 6th Avenue, a place called Bar 6. And a guy named Jay Lepus, who now runs the iTunes store out of Nashville, came in, and I heard him talking about music and indie rock, and I gave him our CD, and he really liked it. He came to see us play. Next thing I know, he's dispersing into some industry friends, and we play a 7 p.m. show at Arlene's Grocery as a warm-up, just to like a preseason scrimmage. And a guy named Nick Sciorra, our lawyer, comes, and his sister's Annabella Sciorra, well-known actress you might know from The Sopranos. But he comes down, and we weren't ready to go on yet. And Nick, they hold him at the door because they're not ready yet. And he's thinking, who are these guys? It's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday. And it kind of impressed him even more. And he watched us play. And after the gig, he said, I know what you guys are doing, and I know what you're going for. I know this is a warm-up gig. Come to my office tomorrow. I want to jump on this right now. So we're like, oh, hell yeah. So we go to his office the next day, and he's like, print me a bunch of CDs. He starts distributing them to the industry. At the time, entertainment lawyers were the gatekeepers for new bands to record labels. Not the only way to get signed, but they were one way. And Nick hands it out. We book another Arlene's Grocery show 2 weeks later. And this time it's 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, but it's packed to the gills. Every single A&R guy from New York to Los Angeles is there. And it's packed with industry people and managers. And I remember taking the subway to go to my own gig, and Carole King is sitting next to me. I'm like, wow, that's Carole King. I get out to walk up the stairs to go to my gig, and I'm following her, and she's going to my gig. It was crazy. It was like this big buzz was happening. And so we play the gig, and after the gig, a couple guys from Octone Records, which was off of J Records, which was owned by Clive Davis, and they come up to me and they're like, we want to have lunch with you tomorrow. They saw all these other A&R guys just starting to fish around, so they knew as a smaller label they had to jump on it quick. So they took me to lunch the next day, and they said, we want to sign you flat out. And I said, okay. And they told me about a band they just signed called Maroon 5, if you could believe it. And yeah, so basically we signed with them. In the middle of doing the deal, my sister calls me on 9/10 and says, Mom wants to have dinner at Windows on the World. I go to top of Windows on the World. This is 9/10/2001. We drink and laugh and stay there till about midnight. Everything's great. Go to the bar next door. About midnight, we go downstairs, and we're all headed home. And my sister looks exhausted. I remember just looking at her, and she was just so sad. My mom said, why don't you take off? You look so tired. She said, I can't. You believe I have to be back here at like 8 o'clock. I have a meeting. So I went home. I was living on the Upper West Side, and the TV was on. We fell asleep with the TV on or something, and I hear screaming and yelling, planes at the World Trade Center. And I wake up, and I'm like, the World Trade Center? Like, I was literally just there. I just went home to go to bed, and I'm looking at the TV, and there's this big gaping hole with all the black smoke coming out. And I'm like, is that a prop plane like everybody else thought? And then we see the second plane hit the second building. And I knew. I was like, we're under attack, and she's in there. So I get dressed. I start running down and jump on the subway. I call my mom, and she's like crying, watching on the TV. And I said, I'm going to try to go down there, but it doesn't look good because it looks like the plane hit right where her office is. I just get off the subway, and I start just like trucking it down like Washington Street. And I could see the Trade Center, and I'm looking at it. It's on fire, and I'm running. And all of a sudden it just starts to fall. And I'm like, I slow down, and I turn around, and I see all these people running and crying. And I'm like, did the World Trade Center just fall? I thought I was dreaming. And they're nodding their heads yes as they're crying. And I just laid down on the floor on the street in the middle of the road on my stomach. And I just thought, she never made it out of there, and she didn't. After that was just like sleepless nights and just awful days of searching and putting up missing posters. And they did find her purse eventually, and it's in the museum, and inside there was the bill from the night before because she bought everybody dinner. It was like a Last Supper. I wish I could go back and bottle up that moment right before tragedy struck, when the city was buzzing with music and hope. But life moves on, we evolve, we keep moving, we make new memories. That's what I'm doing here, telling this story so I never forget. I was there and I lived it.